Hey there, and welcome or welcome back. I'm Christina Amanita, and I love all things thrifty and crafty and naturey. And today we are thrift flipping. So last week I started my Building My Dream Spring Wardrobe video series where I made some upcycles of some ready-made clothes that I already had. And this week we are making some new clothes from scratch. We're drafting our own patterns from models, and we're gonna try some new things. I am still very much a beginner sewist, so I will be learning a lot of things today, and I will definitely be doing some things wrong. I'm so excited for you to see how these projects come out and maybe be inspired to try something new yourself. So today I decided to keep us focused, to make sure we are successful. We are setting 3 rules for ourselves. 1, iron everything. It's important. 2, pay attention to seam allowance. We'll see about that one. And 3, and most importantly, enjoy the process and have fun. Don't forget that this is supposed to be fun. So if all of that sounds good to you, come along with me and let's see what we can make from these thrifted, some of them vintage fabrics. Here we go. So we're gonna jump right in with project number 1, and that is this beautiful woven fabric that I got at Goodwill. It's pretty large. I'm not really sure what it would have been because it's kind of scratchy material. So we're gonna use this fabric today, and my vision right now is maybe some like balloon barrel leg pants, which I really want a pair of. They're trending right now, and I already tend towards kind of like big poofy pants, so I just want to take the next step. Let's get into it. Let's cut this fabric. So because I want to do this project right and do it well, we took this to the ironing board to iron it out a bit, get it nice and flat. And then I laid out my model pants that I'm using to draft the pattern or whatever. And I ironed those as well and lined them up as best I could before making the cuts. So maybe this is where I go wrong, but I always overestimate my cuts. I always leave extra because you know. But sometimes that's the reason that the whole project gets messed up and I have to keep trimming and cutting and resewing so many times. So in the future, I'd like to take note of this and actually think about seam allowance a little more strictly, because sometimes I even draw in the seam allowance and then just ignore it. So here I am, ignoring the seam allowance and just giving a very wide girth to these pants. So I will just note here, mark your pieces so that you know which ones are which. Just a little foreshadowing. Mark your pieces. Wow, off to a good start. So I was just basting this together just to see how it would be, and I realized that I sewed it together wrong. So this is supposed to be the crotch like this, like it's supposed to be this way, but I sewed it this way. So now the legs are super short and the waist is way too high. So I have to unpick all of this and redo everything I just did, and then we will get to the next part of this project. So then I spent what felt like 100 years picking and resewing it to get a better idea of these pants. Okay, moment of truth here. Pretty good. Are nice and balloony. Okay, wow, so I realized when I flipped it this way, I attached the wrong panels. So it should be like these are the 2 front or these are the 2 back and these are the 2 front. Wow, I have to resew all of this again. Oh my God. And honestly, it's not the resewing, it's the seam ripping, because this fabric is like so dainty and woven and beautiful, and it's gonna take me 100 years. So wow, this is taking so long. All right, we're gonna do as much seam ripping as possible and then go for a walk. You get it. More seam ripping. Golly gee. Okay, so that obviously took like 100 times longer than I anticipated because I had to re-sew it and pick it 3 times. 3 times, but this time it is right. So I'm gonna take a break, I'm gonna go for a walk, and then I think we're gonna start on another project. We will return to this one shortly. So let's get outside and get some sun on this nice sunny spring day. Okay there, just hiking Christina here to say thanks so much for being here, and if you like this video, please give me a like and a subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when I make my next video, especially if you're interested in seeing more spring wardrobe videos. So thanks so much again, and let's get back to the house. Are you a basket cat? Is that some stray fabric? You want it? All right, so we are back. I did take a shower because ticks are scary, but we are on to project number 2. I really didn't expect the first project to take so long, and obviously we didn't finish it. We'll be back for it, but I really just want to get into something else now because I was a little frustrated, but I'm trying to just embrace rule number 3, which is enjoy the process. So I'm just trying to enjoy the process, and right now the way that I need to enjoy the process is moving on to a different project. So we are going to try hopefully an easier project, making this little blue top mock neck. I'm not sure if it'll be sleeveless or what yet, but we're gonna start with a mock neck tank top. So we're gonna iron this. I'm gonna try and put this walking foot on my sewing machine, and we're gonna switch to some blue fabric. So let's get into it. All right, so trying to be good again and iron things as I go. So I'm ironing the blue fabric, and then I'm gonna iron my model top again, just like I did with the pants, so that everything is nice and crisply folded in half and ready to be cut and drawn and everything on the fold. So for this, the shape is pretty easy. So I just kind of went with it. I just cut it with the rotary cutter based on the top that I had, and I just made it shorter because I didn't want it to be too long and because I wanted to have enough of this fabric to make something else eventually. So then I had my 2 pieces, my front and my back, super easy, and now I just need to sew them together, right sides together, and I'm going to start with just a straight stitch just to see how it comes out, because that is easier to unpick. So as I was switching to my walking foot to do the straight stitch with the with the stretchy fabric, somehow my needle just dropped into the machine, never to be seen again. If you know how to retrieve the needle, please let me know. I tried opening it up a little bit, but I ultimately just decided to put a new needle in and not waste too much time. And without further ado, the straight stitch, finally. Looks like I needed to lower the armpits for sure, but everything else is pretty good. So I'm just going to change the armholes, going to cut them down a little bit. And then it's time to make the turtleneck, and so for this, I measured my my sample turtleneck that I already have, to see the length that I needed, plus I added a little bit for seam allowance, and then I cut it out of the rest of my fabric here. So to prepare the little turtleneck to go onto the shirt, first we fold it in half. And then I did a straight stitch along the whole thing just to have it stay in one spot. But the mistake I made here was I did not pull it and stretch it enough as I was making the stitch. So I'm going to have to come back to that later. And then the last step before putting the turtleneck on the shirt was just joining it in the middle. So I did right sides together and then I flipped it out. And then I was ready to finally sew the turtleneck onto the top. So first I found the middle of the front and the back and marked those so that I could start with the center line down the center back. And then I filled in everything between, so hopefully you get an even structure. So after a quick straight stitch, I'm turning it out and checking this top, and it looks pretty darn good for my first turtleneck, but I do have to admit that the first time I sewed it on too tight. I should have stretched the fabric as I sewed more. So it looks great on, but it is pretty tight to get onto my head. So I'm gonna have to redo this whole situation, but you get the idea. Okay, so my phone died, so I didn't get the next step, but I just wanted to show you. This is my second attempt at it, and I think it looks pretty good. So I did some binding on the armhole. So I just did the one, so now I gotta do the other. But I think it turned out pretty okay. Other than that, it's looking pretty good so far. I'm pretty excited. So this, I think I'm going to finish up, and you'll see it in the reveal. So next time I see you, we'll be starting up the next project. Here we go. We're gonna get started on project number 3, our last project. So we've got this awesome quilt, I believe just like a homemade quilt, and we're gonna use the vest that I made in last week's video. This is the closest shape, I think, to what I'm looking for with this that I have. So we're gonna use this as a model, a pattern, and really I think the hardest part here is just gonna be deciding where to place the pieces. This part truly took forever, so I'm just gonna skip through it nice and quick. I laid it out, I found my pieces, and then I ironed my model and my fabric, and then I finally placed my fabric and traced around. I gave a little bit of an extra seam allowance all the way around, and then I finally got to cut out my pieces, and this was not easy on the wrist. So thick, so many layers, and if I was gonna do it again, I think that I would requilt it. I would take the original fabric off the top and then put in new batting and a new lining. So something to think about for next time. All right, it is day 2 and we are rocking. I hope that we can finish everything today. So last night I spent like hours just trying this on and then trimming it down. I think it's finally where I want it. So now I'm gonna quilt the pieces a little bit, and then we'll get the pieces together, and then all we need is the binding and maybe a bow or a button. So this actually worked massively better and easier than I expected. So I just followed the lines. I went every 3 lines, I think. I've got my 3 pieces. Oh, that looks really good. My 3 pieces quilted. Oh, I think they look so cute. This stain though on the back panel, it's bothering me so much. So I think I'm gonna put a patch on it before I put the bias binding on. Okay, now that I covered up that gross stain, it's time to finally put the pieces together. So I pinned them at the sides and at the shoulders, and then I started with a straight stitch like I do with everything, just in case I mess it up and I need to unpick it. So then I continuously did the try on and check and then trim off a little bit. I started with the back because it was kind of lumpy, so I took a little bit off the middle. I actually sewed down right sides together down the middle. And then I decided I wanted it to be a little bit shorter, so I trimmed down the front and the back a little bit. So I'm pretty happy with the size and everything. I think it's pretty much what I envisioned. So I'm pretty excited. Yay. So yeah. So yes, I bought 4 different bindings in preparation for this project, and none of them are quite right, I don't think. So I figured we'd just get to this step and try them out a little bit and see. So we've got like a lavender, a dark blue, a light like sky blue, and a white. I think that the lavender might be the cutest because it matches the lavender in a lot of the patterns on here. So I decided that the next best step was just to pin on each one of these and see which one I liked best. I realized that the lavender was very thin, but I ultimately decided that it was the most matching. So maybe eventually I'll get some thicker bias binding in this lavender color, but for now I was satisfied. So then I just thinned out the edges with like the fluff and everything so that the binding would easily fit snugly over it. And then I pinned all of the binding around all of the things and sewed it very, very carefully. And this took a while. Luckily, I had the exact color thread that I needed, and everything turned out pretty okay. It was not too shabby for my first time. So I think we've pretty much finished up this project. So we're going to get back to project number 1, and we'll see this one in the review. Okay, so the pants are done. Now we just need the liner. So I used the pants as a model for the liner. And this time I didn't add seam allowance. I just cut it straight. And then I cut out all the pieces. And then these ones I actually cut out so that it's just 2 pieces. So it's a left side and a right side, and both sides have the front and the back. So I thought this would be easier, especially because it's a lining. It saves me time. There's no reason not to do it. So it turned out pretty good, pretty easy. The only downside is I couldn't put pockets in it, but I wasn't really ready for that step anyway. Maybe in the future I'll cut it open and add some pockets. But for now, this is a pretty easy liner, and I highly recommend trying it out for anybody who has like some scratchy pants, or like you have just some scratchy fabric laying around, you're not sure what to do. Find a nice liner. I feel like this is luxurious fabric to be playing in. I always try everything on a million times when making projects. So here I was just trying to figure out the length that I needed to cut the outside to match the inside. So I just trimmed off a few inches at the bottom, and then I was ready to make my little pleat, I guess, or it's really just an extra line, just to give it more of that balloon shape with the taper on the outside of the leg. So I added that to both legs. I actually measured this and made a decently straight line on both legs. And then I added my zigzags around all of the seams to really make everything kind of finished. Hopefully everything will stay in place through all my adventures. Before sewing, I had never ironed before in my life, but I find it so soothing now. So I try to do it as much as I can because I know it will make my projects look a lot better by just doing something simple like ironing. It's so easy. And here is my helper, of course, always on the scene. So I ironed both pants, and they were ready to get together, to get sewn together and become one. Let's go. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with my pants and my liner, and I wanted to talk through this part because I think this is probably the hardest part of sewing most of the time. And that is like figuring out how to sew things together, right sides together, flipping it inside out, like where can I turn it inside out? How is it gonna work? So this part is the most confusing for me. So I turned my pants inside out, and I've got my liner right side out because I think I want the nice pretty blue part to be on the inside of my legs because it'll feel nice. So I think that if I put this inside of this, then right sides will be together. I'm thinking I want to sew it together at the waist and at the ankles. Maybe I do the ankles first. I do the ankles first, and then they'll all come out, right? It'll all pull out at the same time. That is the problem that like hurts my brain, is like if I sew the ankles And then the waistband, will it all come out that same hole? Will it get stuck in there? Who knows? It seems really wrong. What did I do? It didn't work. It didn't work. If you were wondering, it did not work. Crap. Okay, I unpicked the ankles and then I was able to finally put the liner inside of the pants. So I think I'm gonna finish the waistband before doing the ankles. So I'm gonna iron it and then make my channel line and then stuff in the waistband. I feel like that's the correct order of events. Let's find out. All right, we are so close to the finish line on these pants, just the last touches. So I measured my existing waistband elastic to make sure I could make a channel that it would fit through. I measured my waist, and then I just sewed a straight stitch all the way around, giving it enough room for this thing to fit in there. I used the safety pin trick to get it through. And then I sewed it together using like the box with the X. And then it was just a matter of doing one more straight stitch on the very top of the waistband in order to get a nice clean look. All right, I'm finally seeing the vision. I'm seeing the light at the end of the tunnel of this project. And it's coming together really cute. I just tried it on and I felt like I was just like a little present wrapped up in these pants. I think the waistband turned out pretty good. I definitely messed up and like snagged some places. So, So now all that's left is the ankle. So, I'm gonna finish this off camera and then you will see these in the reveal. And I think we're pretty much done. Yay! All right, so first up we have my very first sewn pair of pants from scratch. I'm so proud of these. I love the fit. I love the way that the fabric lined up with the pattern. I love the playfulness, and the lining makes me feel like I'm gift wrapped, like a little present. And they're just amazing. They're great for adventuring. They're exactly what I envisioned. The only thing that I would do differently next time is adding some pockets, but these are exactly what I wanted. I'm so excited. 10 out of 10 on these pants. And project number 2, my very first mock neck tank top. I was very excited to try this out, and I think that the mock neck itself came out really good. The tank top looks pretty good. Obviously the hem at the bottom is not great. It could be better, but I think it's gonna serve me perfectly for what I need. It's nice and stretchy. It feels comfortable and playful, just like I needed for spring. And I'm just excited to get to wear this spring. And last but certainly not least was my first time doing bias binding and making a quilt vest. So I was very excited that the quilt lines turned out pretty cute. The bias binding, I think I chose the perfect color, and I am just so satisfied with this. It is pretty much exactly what I envisioned. The only thing it's missing is the little bow or ribbon. I just didn't have enough bias tape. I had exactly enough to get around the vest, but that is okay. It can be added in the future if I really feel it's needed. But oh my goodness, I'm so proud of this and all of these projects. It was so exciting to finish these off and feel good about where they're at. These are definitely the 3 best things that I've made from scratch so far. Improvement is still happening, thank goodness. So there you have it, my 3 projects. I really hope that you enjoyed these. Overall, I think they all turned out amazing. I was very excited. I loved drafting my own patterns and making things new, but hopefully next time or in the near future, I will get to use some patterns and find out what it's like to have everything written out for you. If you have a pattern in mind, let me know and maybe we'll try it together. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when I make my next video. But let me know down in the comments if you have any tips or tricks for successful and easy seam ripping. And I will see you in the next one. Have a great day. Bye.